Welcome to the September 13th, 2022 Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District Board meeting. A call to order. And first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. The next order of business is really the public comment period. Is there anybody from the public that wants to comment on anything? Particularly not on our agenda, not seeing anybody. We'll move on to our next item of business, which is a public hearing on the 2022 preliminary proposed budget and levy. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing? Motion by Christian to open the public hearing. Second by Ben. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 4-0. Okay, from now we're going to have a presentation by our district administrator, Joni Giese, and on the 2023 preliminary levy and budget. Thank you.
President Loney and managers, in order to meet the watershed district's water resources management plan goals and to maintain our current service levels, staff is proposing a preliminary levy of $1,998,594 and a budget of $2,484,200 for 2023. This preliminary levy and budget represents an increase of approximately just a little less than $150,000 from the 2022 levy. This represents an 8.1% increase from 2022, and a significant portion of this increase is really reflective of inflationary pressures on the district. Based on the preliminary levy of the $1.9 million, this is a tax rate of 2.94%, which is a 12% decrease from the 2022 tax rate of 3.3%. And based on the 2.94% tax rate for a median valued residential property for the municipalities within the watershed district, who experience a 15% increase in their property values from the previous year, would see a tax increase of approximately $3 to $5 on their tax bill. The budget reflects the district's continued efforts to build reserve funds to cover anticipated Lake alum treatments and future debt repayments. Consistent with previous years, approximately 70% of the budget is directed towards projects and programs that either improve water quality or reduce flooding. If folks are looking at purely the simple spreadsheet of water quality, of flood projects, it's a little deceptive because in our water quality line item of the Upper Watershed Blueprint, there is a line item of approximately $100,000 in there that really relates to flood control projects. Approximately $340,000 of the budget will be covered by budget reserves. So these are funds that we have already set aside in previous years to cover for watershed projects. And then the budget also includes about $110,000 of anticipated grant funds that will cover some of our project costs. The budget associated with aquatic invasive species prevention, monitoring, and management is consistent with prior years. And the administrative expense represents approximately 10% of the budget. So staff recommends the adoption of Resolution 22-361, certifying the preliminary 2023 administrative and metropolitan water management tax levy.
Okay, thank you, Administrator Giese. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone who wishes to speak at this time, please come forward. State your name and address and any comments. Not seeing anybody coming forward, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Matt.
Second.
Second by Christian. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the motion carried. The public hearing is closed. So now, for the board members to discuss the proposed resolution, I would just want to make a couple quick comments that I've been on the board now. This is my 4th year, I think. And the previous 3 years, we did not raise the levy except for last year, but we kept the levy pretty flat because we didn't know which projects and which programs we wanted to increase. And once we got a study done, that now it shows what we need to do to improve the water quality of our impaired lakes and also to reduce flooding, reduce flooding projects. So we're doing a little bit of catch up and ramping up in order, but also I think it's a budget that's fairly responsible because of inflation and other costs that we're seeing. But this is a maximum levy certification right now. If we approve this resolution, we cannot increase the levy from this point on. We can increase it in December, but we cannot increase it. So with that, I will take anybody's comments on the budget or if you want to make a motion on the resolution.
I move that we pass Resolution 2261.
Okay, and second?
Second.
Second. Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? Not hearing any discussions. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, Resolution 22-361 is approved 4-0. Now, I guess the next item on our agenda is really approval of the agenda, which makes, I guess, anybody have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, motion is to approve.
Second.
Second by Christian. Seeing there are no changes, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No opposed. Motion carried 4-0. Okay, so now we're going to go to old and new business. First item is programs and projects. I think, Jeff, you have this, huh?
All right. Today, 9/13/2022, Prior Lake is continuing to fall in its lake level. It's sitting at 899.53, Spring Lake at 909.47, Pike Lake at 818.7. So, very little precipitation over the last month and throughout the summer are leading to pretty significant low lake levels, and that's pretty consistent throughout the metro. And we are still in a moderate drought. Continuing with the monitoring minute, where we'll get to explain a little behind the scenes or some of the workings that drive some of the programming in the district. This month I'll be explaining the long-term monitoring plan. The long-term monitoring plan outlines the district's goals and was created to fulfill the 2022 Water Resource Management Plan's needs for a 10-year outlook and budgeting purposes for the monitoring program. So why does the watershed monitor its water resources? Well, monitoring creates and maintains baseline data sets, and through that we can detect trends, compare our resources to the state's water quality standards, diagnose water quality problems, enable best management decisions and related decision-making processes, create progress and efficiency of projects, and meet permitting and grant requirements. And on the right is just a graphic of where different types of monitoring occurs throughout the district. So in this long-term monitoring plan created in 2020, it broke our lake resources into 3 tiers, and that's based off of use and investments and need. So we have tier 1, which are primarily our larger lakes, and they have had the greatest investments. Our tier 2 lakes, which have had identified potential issues and have had maybe TMDLs and planned some planning involved with those lakes. And then our tier 3 lakes are generally don't have impairments. Some of them are smaller and have less use. So the plan also describes when the monitoring occurs and its frequency. In our lakes, our water quality is collected bi-weekly, May through September. And through that, there's also additional subsets of sampling, which include plankton, and those, which is zooplankton and phytoplankton, and that occurs monthly in a tiered cycle based on priority. In our streams, we collect samples, water chemistry samples bi-weekly, April through October, and that can range depending on how early or how late some of our BMPs are functioning, like our ferrochloride plant. We take flows bi-weekly or during rain events. The ferrochloride plant is monitoring is mandated through the MPCA. We also have some smaller long-term data sets that we collect, like ISON and ISOF. This table shows just a small section of what our long-term monitoring plan table is, broken into tiers and years and different programs. So what types of monitoring do we do? Well, water quality is a huge component. We collect chemistry samples for analysis. We use multi-probe sondes to collect parameters such as temperature, dissolved oxygen. We use visual tools like a Secchi disc to determine clarity. We use staff gauges and level loggers to take level and record level. We conduct point intercept and vegetation density reading for plant surveys. ISON and ISOF is just observational, and zooplankton and phytoplankton are collected through nets. So why do we do this monitoring? Well, water quality sampling is used to make comparisons to state standards, select potential improvement projects, report on TMDLs, RAPs, grants, and goals. Lake level information provides vital information for flood potential and storage capacity. It allows us to create runoff and nutrient modeling. Plant surveys are used to track responses to projects such as alum treatments, carp removals, and AIS spread. We're also able to measure progress of those grants and lake health through these plant surveys. Over the last few years, we've seen a pretty significant water clarity improvement in our lakes, and these plant surveys track right along with that as well. Our ice on and off data provide long-term data trends. So this information's going along with climate change. Our zooplankton and phytoplankton monitoring is really looking at the base of the food chain, but we're hoping to use this data for when the time comes for biota impairments in our lakes, and being able to use that to potentially delist from those impairments. So in our streams, we monitor a whole number of ditches and streams. Currently it's around 18, and this is level and chemistry. Some of them are just level, and for example, we monitored County Ditch 13 before, during, and after the ferrochloride treatment process. This provides vital information for dosing, and it's the largest contributor of nutrients to Spring Lake. And there's a whole number of these tributaries that we monitor. These are used to determine where potential projects and BMPs may be installed, as well as determining the efficiency and effectiveness of different types of BMPs. The long-term monitoring plan is really a great tool to build monitoring data sets and allow for us to combine efforts and analysis. For example, we use our continuous level readings, flow measurements, rating curves, and chemistry samples to create nutrient loading analysis and provide inputs for engineering models. And they also help us inform operational procedures, such as when to open and close the low flow gate or main gate on the outlet structure if operational needs are requested. And they can, on the right here, you can see in 2018, these were phosphorus loads for the year ran through a model. And it coincides with other nutrients and where we might want to determine or put our efforts. So that's the long-term monitoring plan. This is a real high-level talk about that. It goes into pretty great detail on how, when, where, and why our monitoring occurs. So our carp management over the last month, we've focused on carp population surveys. During these surveys, we've removed most of those carp. We also got to partner with the Minnesota Zoo and provide carp for their Bears of Russia exhibit. So it's pretty neat. Hopefully we'll create a partnership where maybe those carp are able to feed those bears more frequently. So that was pretty fun. Our baited hoop net pilot study was not successful. We ran that for 2 weeks and we did not catch carp. So we've pulled the plug on that study. But it was worth a shot. We got to keep trying. And we also submitted our application for the 2023 fiscal year Clean Water Fund grant. So the goal of that application is to reduce internal phosphorus loading in Spring and Upper Prior Lakes through innovative and adaptive techniques. We're proposing a combined 895-pound phosphorus annual reduction. Through this grant, we would make the push trap barrier permanent or some sort of permanent adaptation to that. We would use plant data to determine and target spawning locations for removals. install real-time tracking devices in the lake to monitor radio-tagged carp, and overall achieve results with less reliance on commercial netting. This month, August 20th, the Starry Trek AAS detection program was a success. We had 6 volunteers. Shauna Capron led this effort. They searched 8 water bodies. Overall, the program had 233 volunteers, 248 water bodies, no new infestations, although 13 new mystery snail reports were made. Those were Chinese and banded mystery snails. So those were not in Scott County, but overall statewide. The farmers market on August 27th was also a success. This was a partnership with the Watershed Board, CAC, and staff. The goal of this was educating the public on illicit discharge and promoting watershed stewardship. There was numerous good interactions with the public.
So I'll be providing a quick update on some of our upper watershed blueprint projects. So we are right now in the process for this first bullet really applies to the whole upper watershed, but we are in the process of contracting with a real estate specialist to help facilitate discussions between the watershed district and property owners where we are interested in implementing some practices. We will be starting out with 3 property owners who have property associated with our Spring West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter feasibility study to kick off this process. One of these projects is looking at, once again, an iron enhanced sand filter. Another property will be looking to see if there's any interest for property owners to work with the district to develop a wetland bank on their properties. The district is also initiating discussions with Scott County regarding some land that's adjacent to the iron enhanced sand filter site to see if there's a potential for possibly doing some land swapping so that would help facilitate moving that project forward. For the Sutton Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, district staff needs to perform some additional investigations in response to some discussions that we've had with the property owner. So a little more work needs to be done there to keep that project moving forward to address some of the concerns that were raised to us by the property owner. For the Buck Wetland Enhancement Project, soil samples were collected and analyzed, and the consultants are currently preparing some potential enhancement scenarios in response. I should say the soil samples were actually a positive finding. So what we do is we collect the soil samples to understand whether the wetland is actually a sink for phosphorus, whether it has the ability to absorb some additional phosphorus, or whether it would be a source of phosphorus. Then that would be a bad thing, and that would really limit what we could do in that project. So what we found was that the soil still has the ability to absorb additional phosphorus. And that finding helps us to determine what are some of the potential scenarios for moving forward. So staff and the consultant have a meeting scheduled with the DNR coming up this week, I believe, to once again walk through some of those various enhancement scenarios to get DNR's input on it, and also to understand what the implication for permitting is on those various scenarios. And then our goal is to have a second property owner meeting yet with the property owners around wetland yet this fall.
Joni, do we have any tentative date for that second property owner meeting? Because I know we told them September when we met last.
Right now, we're thinking October.
October? Okay.
And staff will be working to get that scheduled here probably within the next week. On the Swamp Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, we have to solicit our partners for the Wbif Grant So once again, originally for the water-based implementation funding grant that was made available to our planning area, the district initially was thinking to move forward with doing a feasibility study on the Ditch 13 chemical treatment system. We are rethinking our methodology for approaching the upper watershed projects, really wanting to focus on those projects that are really the most upper in the upper watershed, because then what we implement in the upper watershed would influence how we would design these chemical treatment facilities, which are further down in the watershed. So with that kind of new approach, we want to first start out with the Swamp Lake Iron Enhanced feasibility study and use our WBIF funds on that study. We do need to make sure our partners are comfortable with us swapping out which feasibility study we want to move forward with. And then once again, we are now working then to develop put together a budget and a work scope of services that we need to submit to Bowser for the review and approval. On the Sutton Lake Management Plan, the consultants are working to prepare a draft of that management plan. And then the next step would be for district staff to schedule our next meeting with property owners associated with that study as well. And then, as I mentioned, because given kind of the timing of our different studies for the upper watershed, the Ditch 13 chemical treatment system and the Buck Channel chemical treatment systems will not advance probably until another year or so until we understand the outcomes of these other feasibility studies. Any questions?
Any questions for anybody? Christian?
I wonder if at some point in time, either today or next board meeting, we could get a review of the iron chloride plant efficiency calculations. I think I read that you have completed those, and it does not have to be today, but so we can see, you know, as we know, it's the major contributor of phosphorus pollution to the lakes. And so what did it look like up front, and how much were we able to remove? And I suppose those are based on calculations from last year, which was a drought year and similar to this year. But
Manager Markberg, certainly we can bring those calculations forward next board meeting and discuss 2021 and likely 2022 efficiencies with how lack of precipitation we've had this summer. Most of our calculations will be wrapped up, assuming that we don't get a big influx of rain here. So we'll bring those forward.
thank you.
I have just one quick question on the, in the report here, it talks about Sutton Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, completed semi-annual Bowser reporting. What exactly do we have to report? We haven't done anything, but kind of question, what is that reporting? Carl, is that something for you, or?
No, President Loney, that work is, part of that work that we performed is funded with the Bowser grant. And this is for the Sutton Lake Outlet, is that correct? Oh, so Sutton Lake Outlet project?
It's under the Sutton Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, so that's why it's. Is that,
Oh, great, you're right. So we actually do have we received another water-based implementation funding grant from Bowser back in, I believe, 2019 to help fund 2 feasibility studies. That's the Buck Lake study and the Sutton Iron Enhanced filter. Bowser requires that we do submit progress reports on those grants twice a year.
okay, so it's grant related.
It's
funding that we got.
grant
Okay.
related reporting requirements.
All right. Any other questions on the reporting here of the project, programs and projects? I mean, one other question or comment I would have, it'd be nice to have a map for the viewing public showing where these projects are at in future presentations, because we know where they are, but I don't know if the public knows where they are.
Yeah, President Loney, that's a good point. We will make sure that we'll, in the future, bring forward maps to help folks understand where these are located within the watershed.
Manager Tofinelli, you want something?
Thank you. Jeff, I had one question regarding your reporting. You had mentioned zooplankton and photoplankton, I'll call them surveys. Have you noticed anything that might relate to zebra mussels, or any changes in those populations?
No real hard evidence on zebra mussel changes in upper and lower Prior Lakes. Spring Lake, we've gotten reports from the Lake Association that through their sampler ladders installed this year, that the zebra mussel population has expanded basically throughout Spring Lake. So,
I think you might have
so-
misunderstood my question. When
sorry.
I was thinking more on food chain impact of zebra mussels, filtration feeders, if you were seeing anything in the population of the actual zooplankton, photoplankton population, not the zebra mussels themselves. Sorry for not clarifying.
That was on me. Manager Tofinelli, we have not gotten, the data sets on the phytoplankton and zooplankton are really quite new to us. We've only had 2 years, and we're staggering the lakes on these surveys. So no real update on how that's affecting the populations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Manager Morkenberg.
Yes, Jeff, I just wanted to compliment you on your presentation. It was thorough and detailed, and good job. And also, of course, so our administrator, Joni, phenomenal job with the budget and the project presentation. Thank you.
Managers, I did ask for questions a little early. We do have, I think, a slide or two of updates.
Two more slides, I think. Just last little bit of information on the outlet channel bank stabilization project. The sites in segments 1, 4, and 5 have all been completed. The construction has been completed. The sites have been stabilized. We are basically waiting on the grass to grow. Here's a photo of segment 4. And here's a photo of segment 5. So some last little details are we'll be working out some potential tree and shrub plantings with an adjacent easement property owner in segment 4. Any questions?
That's
further?
it then?
Okay.
Okay. I think any other questions from any board members? Okay, moving on then. The next item, 4.2, is the employee benefit policy and a resolution 22-360. Administrator Easy, I think this is yours.
President Loney and managers. In July and August, staff brought forward draft policies associated with staff contributions to health and dental insurance premiums. In the August meeting of the Board of Managers, managers directed staff to refine the policy to reflect a two-tiered approach, which we confirmed is legally permissible. So the two-tiered approach states that all staff hired before a specified date to be determined by the district administrator, which I am proposing be January 1st, 2023, that, so once again, all staff hired by January 1st would maintain their current levels of contribution to their health and dental premiums. New staff hired after January 1st would then contribute 15% to their personal health and dental insurance premiums, and also then contribute 30% to family-level health premiums and 50% to family dental coverages. So district staff is recommending that the Board of Managers approve Resolution 22-360 of the Prior Lake Employee Benefits Policy.
Okay, is there, I think we first all need a motion on to get the discussion going here. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 22-360?
Yes, a motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve by,
Second.
second by Commissioner Burnett. Okay, so with that, we can talk, any discussion anybody would like to have on this resolution. And what I see is the big change is, I guess, the two-tier benefit approach that we discussed at the workshop. The hiring date is January 2023, so anybody hired now until then would be under the previous policy. Is that correct?
Manager Loney, that is correct. So this policy is proposing that any new hires before year end would still contribute consistent with the current policy, which is 0% to employee premiums for health and dental, 25% for family health, and 50% family dental.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification so everybody can understand that. Any other comments? Any discussion? If not, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor of Resolution 22-360, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nobody opposed, so motion carried 4-0. With that, now we're up to the Treasurer's Report at Manager Morkenberg.
Yes, thank you. All expenses are trending appropriate compared to where we are in the year. The general fund currently is at 58%, and the implementation fund is at 27%. If you look at the cash flow projection chart, it also outlines where we are now and where we are projected to be at the end of the year. Our holdings are almost 900,000 at Old National Bank, 76,000 at Sterling Bank, and 1.4 million at 4M. The good news is we have total uncleared transactions, none. So we have basically cleared all our old checks, and we have successfully transitioned to paying online using bills.com. So that was a major accomplishment too. Thank you so much, Joni, for all your work. And I think it's going to help a lot and make things more efficient in the future, and easier to check also when we look at the bills. We will have a meeting with 4M in a few weeks where we'll discuss some options for the funds that we have there, which we will bring back to the board and for discussion. One thing when we look at the implementation fund that I thought I would mention is that when we looked at the Sudden Lake Outlet project, we actually completed the project under cost, and which is not something you often hear. I thought I would mention it. And so we saved about, I think, at least 30,000 that will be returning to the DNR. And I thought that is a good thing, that you can make things less expensive than projected. So I just thought I would mention that.
I have one question, Christian, and maybe, I don't know if you can answer, Joni, but when would we be able to close out our Sterling and Old National accounts and go totally with 4M? I know we're getting close, but is there something holding it up, or what's the story?
President Loney, the one thing we still have to do is transition our payroll to come out of the U.S. Bank 4M fund. So I am working with our accountants CLA to transition our payroll, and we're working to have our first payroll of October come out of the new account. And at that point, now that all the checks have cleared, all outstanding checks have cleared Sterling, we would then be able to close out both the Sterling account and the Old National account and transfer all of those funds to the 4M fund.
Thank you. I knew it was coming soon. I know it's been a while to get to there, so.
And I also believe we have to make sure that things like property taxes are paid to 4M as well. Is that correct? Or?
Yes, Manager Morkenberg. The other thing district staff needs to achieve yet is there's a number of ACH payments that we receive from the state of Minnesota for our grant funds and for our tax remittances from from Scott County that are electronically transferred into our Old National account. So we need to work with all of those agencies to change where they're routing those electronic payments to make sure that we get all our funds in the correct account.
We don't want to lose that account. Okay, anything else, Christian?
No, thank you.
Okay, good report. The next item on our agenda is a consent agenda, in which it's one item of business, routine and administrative items not requiring discussion. They can be removed from the consent at the request of a board member, staff member, or member of the audience. The items that are on the consent agenda are meeting minutes from August 18th, both at the workshop and the board meeting, the claims list, and visa expenditure summary in the Moam Drainage Swale Stabilization Project. It's a payment pre-authorization in order to facilitate that project. So with that, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion made by Manager Tofinelli. Second by Manager Burnett. There's no discussion on this, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 4-0. And now we're at the point of upcoming meeting and event schedule. The next CAC meeting is on September 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Prior Lake City Hall Wagon Bridge Conference Room. Our next meeting for the Board of Managers Workshop is October 11th, 4 p.m., and the Board of Managers' next meeting would be October 11th at 6 p.m. I should also report that we will have a quarterly, tentatively, we have a quarterly PLOC meeting this Thursday. It's still on the agenda, but we haven't confirmed if other cooperators can make that meeting or not. But anyway, that's the latest list of upcoming events. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, President Loney, just to supplement, for the Prior Lake Outlet Channel Cooperators meeting, the quarterly meeting will be held this Thursday in the Parkview Conference Room here in City Hall. That runs from 12 until 1:30 in the afternoon.
All right, thank you for that clarification. With that, there's nothing else on the agenda except to adjourn. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Manager Tofinelli. Second by Manager Burnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned at 6:45 p.m. Thank you, everybody.